Alright, so you should have downloaded the Missouri Financial Accounting Manual off of DESE's website. This was published by the state. This is our guide for everything that we do when it comes to finances and budgets and schools. There's a lot of components to it. We're not going to go through the whole financial manual. There's no reason to. It's got all the requirements from the state and federal, budgeting information, accounting principles, accounting codes, which is what we're going to focus on right now, and then it's got audit requirements and federal information. So let's start with the funds. There are 4 funds. Some schools may use more than 4 funds, but the majority of the public schools in Missouri use the 4 funds. The Incidental Fund, which is also known as Fund 1. The Teachers Fund, which is also known as Fund 2. The Debt Service Fund, which is also known as Fund 3. And the Capital Projects Fund, which is also known as Fund 4. So Incidental Fund, which is also Fund 1, basically, this is the fund where all your supplies, non-certified staff salaries and benefits, anything like that would come out of this fund. Fund 2, which is the Teachers Fund, this is where all your certified salaries and benefits would come out of, as well as tuition to other school districts. Fund 3 is the Debt Service. And we'll talk more about that towards the end of this class, but this is where your bond issue, if your school has passed a bond issue, you will have a debt service fund. Fund 4 is Capital Projects Fund. This is where all your construction, if you do a lease purchase or school buses, or if you buy equipment around the school, that's all Fund 4 type expenditures. Fund 4 is one of those that is tricky when it comes to getting money into Fund 4, because there's only certain ways to generate money in Fund 4. One is if you have a tax rate and that money goes into Fund 4. Of course, if you pass a bond issue and you sell those bonds, then that money goes into Fund 4. Then there's some transfers you can do at the end of the year to allow you to put some funds in Fund 4 to do some capital projects. We talked about the debt service. When we come to the bond issue part of this course, we'll talk a little bit more about how the debt service works. As far as the revenues go, there are 5 classifications for revenues. You have the local revenues. This is where your sales tax, your current and delinquent taxes, property taxes, so all those are local sources. County sources would be your railroad and utilities taxes, and then fines and forfeits. Those would be like if someone gets pulled over and gets a speeding ticket, that would go into county revenue. State revenue, this is where the state gives you your state payment, transportation payment, and then federal sources, this is where you get your money for title, special ed, as well as federal food service program. And then you have some other sources, so you may have some other local money that comes in that doesn't fall into your local sources. Now, I'm going to pull up the financial manual. Just a couple things I want you to look at. So there's 2 things you're going to be focused on with this assignment. It's an 8-digit number to code each one of these. The first 4 digits are called function codes, and those identify a department. So for example, elementary school would be 1111s, and high school would be 1151s. So to get these codes, you're going to go through F8 through F41. So if I go to F8, for example, here we go. Elementary is 11 and 11. So like I said, the function tells you which department. So, and there's several pages. The next is the object code. It's also a 4-digit code, and this is where it gets a little more specific as to exactly what is it you're spending money on. So when we get to the object codes, you will see, let me get there. You don't have to read this whole manual, but you'll have to go through these pages to be able to code the items on there. So the first thing you have to do is figure out what the function code is, what department is spending the money. Then the second part is you have to identify the information. And the object codes are in G5 through G21. So I will show you an example. So for example, we'll just start as simple as teacher's salaries. So that would be a 6111 regular salaries, full-time contract. So that's where you would code that as a 6111. So you can go through these, but what you'll have to do is you'll have to take your worksheet and find these on there. The reason this is important, if you become a principal, you need to be able to identify how much money is left in certain accounts, and you also have to code them so that the money is spent out of the right accounts. So that's the financial manual. I also have a bit of a cheat sheet created here to kind of give you an idea. So on the function code, you know, if on object code, sorry, if it starts with a 5, that would be a revenue. So for example, on here, a 5. So 1 would be assets, 2 would be liability, but if you remember, we just looked at the object codes for the expenditures and all of them started with a 6. Then the second number tells you a little bit more. So if we're looking at expenditures, the second number would tell you if it's a salary, a benefit, services, or supplies. So for example, if it's a 4, it's going to be some kind of supply. So if you have a 6-4, then it's some kind of supply. And then the last 2 digits, they just basically give more detail to exactly what you're spending. So that's a little bit about how coding expenditures works. So I hope that this was enough information to get you going, but don't hesitate to ask questions if you have any.